most people end their day the same way. They scroll through their phone until their eyes get heavy. They watch something they will not remember tomorrow. They lie in the dark replaying conversations that already ended hours ago. And then they wonder why they wake up the next morning feeling like nothing actually changed. Like the same problems are still there. Like the same patterns keep repeating. Like life is happening to them instead of being built by them. Here is what nobody tells you. The way you end your day is quietly shaping who you become. Not your morning routine, not your goals, not your ambition. The last 20 minutes before your eyes close, that is where the real work happens, or does not happen. And Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled the most powerful empire on earth while dealing with war, betrayal, loss, and political chaos that would break most people in a week, he knew exactly what to do with those 20 minutes. And tonight, you are going to learn it. Before we get into what he did, understand something about who Marcus Aurelius actually was. This was not a man who had an easy life. People imagine Roman emperors sitting on gold thrones being handed everything they ever wanted. Marcus Aurelius spent most of his reign on battlefields. He lost children. He was surrounded by people who were constantly trying to use him, undermine him, or outright betray him. And yet every single night he sat down and wrote. Not reports, not strategies, not political documents. He wrote to himself. Honest, private, sometimes brutal conversations with his own mind. We now call that collection of writings meditations. And what most people do not realize is that meditations was never meant to be a book. It was never meant to be read by anyone. It was a nightly practice. A discipline he returned to every single evening without exception. And that practice, that quiet, private, deeply personal ritual, is what kept one of the most powerful men in history grounded, clear, and human. So what exactly did he do? And more importantly, what can you do tonight? Let us go through it. The first thing, he reviewed the day honestly, not harshly, not with self-punishment, honestly. Marcus Aurelius would sit at the end of each day and go back through what happened, not to feel good about it, not to beat himself up about it, but to see it clearly. He asked himself simple questions. Where did I lose control of myself today? Where did I react when I should have paused? Where did I let someone pull me out of my own peace? Where did I act in a way that did not match who I am trying to be? He was not looking for reasons to feel guilty. He was looking for information, because Marcus Aurelius understood something that most people spend their whole lives missing. You cannot fix what you refuse to look at. Most people go through their entire day and never once stop to examine it. They just move from one thing to the next. And then they wonder why the same mistakes keep showing up. Same arguments, same reactions, same outcomes. Because nothing was ever examined. Nothing was ever learned from. The day just happened. And then it happened again the next day and the day after that. Tonight before you sleep, go back through your day, not with judgment, with curiosity. Where were you not yourself today? That one question asked honestly every single night will change you faster than any book, any podcast, any motivational video ever could. The second thing, he separated what he could control from what he could not. This sounds simple. It is not, because most of the things that keep us up at night are things we have zero control over. What someone thinks of us, whether a person comes back or stays away, whether a decision we made last week turns out the way we hoped, whether someone is talking about us right now in a room we are not in. We lie in the dark running these things through our heads like we can somehow think our way to a different outcome. Marcus Aurelius came back to this again and again in his writing. He said some things are up to us and some things are not. And the moment you stop spending energy on the things that were never in your hands, you suddenly have an enormous amount of energy left for the things that actually are. Tonight before you sleep, take everything that is circling in your head, all the worry, all the anxiety, all the replaying and rehearsing and wondering, and sort it into two piles. Things you can actually do something about, and things you cannot. Everything in the second pile, let it go tonight. Not forever, not pretending it does not matter, just for tonight. Because lying in the dark worrying about something you cannot control is not preparation, it is just suffering in advance. And Marcus Aurelius would tell you you have already paid enough for things that were never yours to carry. The third thing, he looked for one moment he was grateful for, not a list, not a journal full of blessings, one moment, something small, a conversation that felt real, a meal that was good, 5 minutes of quiet that actually felt like quiet. Someone who looked at you like they were glad you were there. Marcus Aurelius lived through some of the hardest years in Roman history, and still in his private writings you find these small, quiet observations. The morning light, a simple meal, an honest conversation with someone he respected. He was not pretending his life was easy. He was training his mind to notice what was real alongside what was hard. Because here is what happens when you only focus on what went wrong. Your brain, which is already designed to look for threats, gets better and better at finding them. You start seeing problems everywhere, in people, in situations, in yourself, and eventually that becomes the lens through which you see everything. Gratitude is not soft. It is not a self-help cliché. It is a deliberate act of training your mind to see the full picture instead of just the parts that hurt. One moment tonight, just one. Find it, hold it for a few seconds, and let your mind end the day knowing that something small was worth having. The fourth thing, he reminded himself who he wanted to be tomorrow, not what he wanted to achieve, not what was on his schedule, who he wanted to be. Patient, steady, clear, fair, present. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake tomorrow you will meet with someone difficult, with ingratitude, with arrogance, with dishonesty." He was not being pessimistic, he was preparing, because the person who walks into a difficult day without any preparation gets pulled in every direction by whoever is loudest. But the person who has already decided who they are before the day begins is much harder to move. Tonight, before you close your eyes, spend 2 minutes thinking about who you want to be tomorrow. Not what you want to get, not what you want to achieve, who you want to be when things get hard, when someone tests your patience, when something does not go the way you planned, when you are tired and frustrated and the easiest thing would be to react. Who do you want to be in that moment? Decide it tonight. Because the person who decides in advance almost always shows up better than the person who is figuring it out mid-crisis. The fifth thing, he wrote it down. This is the part most people skip. And it is the part that made everything else work. Marcus Aurelius did not just think about his day, he wrote about it. And there is a reason for that. Thoughts in your head are slippery. You can convince yourself of almost anything when it stays inside your mind. You can justify, rationalize, soften, excuse. But the moment you put something in writing, it becomes real. You cannot look away from it as easily. You cannot pretend it said something it did not say. Writing forces a kind of honesty that thinking alone simply does not. It is why we still have meditations 2,000 years later. Not because Marcus Aurelius was trying to leave something behind, but because the act of writing, the daily, private, honest act of putting his thoughts on paper, was how he held himself accountable to himself. Not to Rome, not to his generals, not to history, to himself. Tonight, get something to write in. Does not need to be fancy. A notebook, a journal, even your notes app, and write 3 things. 1 honest observation about today. 1 thing you are releasing because it is outside your control. 1 sentence about who you want to be tomorrow. That is it. 3 things. 2 minutes every night. And do it for 30 days. Then look back at what you wrote on day 1. You will not recognize the person who wrote it. Here is the truth about all of this. Marcus Aurelius was not special because he was born with something most people do not have. He was consistent in a way most people are not willing to be. He sat down every night tired, often grieving, often carrying the weight of an empire on his shoulders, and he did the work, quietly, privately, without anyone watching. And that quiet, private, nightly discipline is what kept him grounded through wars, through betrayal, through loss, through decades of leading under pressure that would have destroyed almost anyone else. You do not need an empire to use this practice. You just need tonight, 20 minutes. before your eyes close. Review your day honestly. Release what you cannot control. Find one moment worth holding on to. Decide who you want to be tomorrow. Write it down. That is the practice. That is what Marcus Aurelius did. And if it was enough to keep the most powerful man in the ancient world human, grounded and clear, it is enough for you. If this is something you needed to hear today, share it with one person who needs a better night than the one they have been having.